ultimately come to market and be regulated. Payers are looking for outcomes. You heard earlier today the cost and expense associated with some of these liquid biopsy tests, whether it's screening all the way to monitoring. And ultimately, how does this come to market in light of the connected systems that we live in today? So as we've done the transition from personalized to precision medicine, this ecosystem's gotten more complicated, but also more exciting. In the last 6 to 8 months, certainly at Rainance and more broadly in some of the support of venture capital funds that I'm involved in, we've seen advancements in opportunities to do blood-based testing, genomic testing, with a little add-on to your iPhone or your iPad. This entire digital health area is evolving very, very rapidly, and liquid biopsy represents one of the most important mechanisms by which to access and gather that information in a fast, low-cost, but information-rich manner. The technologies, as you see in this ecosystem, are equally important, and it's not just the analytical technologies that typify the traditional standard scientific or clinical research lab. It's actually about the connected technologies that go around that, and also the advancement of our understanding of the human genome. We recognize that we don't live in a world of monogenetic diseases, right? The vast majority of complex disease out there are involved with not just simple genotypes, but copy numbers, large forms of genetic structural variation, and even chromosome-level rearrangements, which are very poorly understood today, but which clearly will form the crux of how science will need to move forward. So ultimately, there are certain factors, if you take the tech world over into the scientific world, of what needs to happen to make this for this to occur. First is highly quantitative assays that are also highly precise, and we've seen some great data from the last few presentations of how that can be done. You heard Luis talk about localization, and this has two benefits. One is that you try to get the most representative sample of what's happening in human biology, but while trying to overcome the sampling conditions and errors associated with traditional biopsies or other tissue-based approaches. And importantly, this has to be accessible and it has to be deployable, which is something that we're just on the cusp of looking at in the genomics industry. So areas of genomics which are being impacted today, it's research, it's planning, it's prevention, it's therapeutic selection, a lot of the things you've heard about today. But importantly, non-invasive liquid biopsy approaches represent a unique way of being able to get that information easily, cost-effectively, and in a way that starts to reduce the level of anxiety in understanding the progression or prognosis of disease. So here's the example of the type of model of how this could evolve, from the screening of hereditary risk on the front end to actual prognosis for early screening or validation of clinical etiology, straight through tumor pathology into monitoring applications. Clearly, as you look across this landscape, there are nuances in the technologies, the comprehensiveness of the targets and panels that you go after, but also importantly, the analytics, the regulatory, and the reimbursement environment in which these are going to get done. So what are those challenges? So it starts with sampling, the ability to look at many targets, and you've heard folks talk about the value of